I'm running late.
We went to this tax company last year thinking we'd get a big refund.
I mean, we've got kids, daycare expenses. I mean, we should have got a lot back.
But that tax company didn't itemize our mortgage, and they missed the child credit.
They messed us up.
If you're audited by the Internal Revenue Service, get smart. If you have back taxes to file, get smart. When you get your W-2 forms, like I said, get smart.
Welcome to the Granny Show. That's me, Granny. I try Calvin Barrow. You know, answer. I say, hello, it's me. Oh, you that big man now? You that big man now? Just last week when you made the pee-pee, I bet. You not choose a side yet? Or you that side, Musa? Make a tell on about my grandson, Johnny. Johnny on the light ask me for credit. Tell him boy me not got no credit for you. And then Johnny when he want come around here on the light thief marble. So, we got a lot of celebrities on this show. What are me again? I'll come back to that one. I'll tell all our celebrity right now. You come on this show, yeah, they act some kind of way.
Again, we're here with a new guest, and his name is Mr. Aubrey Franklin. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to be here.
Yes, and Aubrey has so much things that he wants to express, his opinion, it's interesting. I mean, you do not want to miss this segment. Aubrey came here to the U.S. as an undocumented immigrant. He's worked as an undocumented immigrant, and now, of course, he's of legal status.
Yes.
And I will pass it on to him for him to give you a little insight of his journey in the United States of America.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I came here to the U.S. in 1985. I came here undocumented. I didn't have many job options in Belize, like many of the people that left school around the time I did. There was a major brain drain in Belize.
How old were you when you came?
I was 23 years old.
Wow, very young.
So many of the people that I graduated with from high school and stuff, they now live in the U.S. because there were very few options unless you worked for the government or your family had a business. There were no good jobs, and so people came here and made a life. I came here and I worked for many years as an undocumented person. I had a filing in with immigration, but it, you know, because of the long lines that you have to get in for visas, it took many years for me to become a full legal permanent resident.
Legal status.
During that period, I worked a couple of jobs at the time. I went back to school. I started working as a delivery driver, actually, in a small manufacturing company. And after many years, I was able to work my way up to eventually becoming the president of the company.
Were you documented at that time, or
no,
still undocumented?
I was still in process. I was still in the process,
wow, that's great.
working on a work permit. And then in 2004, we actually bought the company and ran it till 2010 when we closed the business.
Okay, that's amazing. As an undocumented, basically,
Yes.
in process
Yeah.
immigrant.
And that's one of the good things about this country is there's opportunities out there for people that want to come here and make it. Unfortunately, I know too many of our people
That's right.
that come here and get caught up in the whole welfare dependency system and don't take full advantages of what the country has to offer. Yeah.
You work for what you want.
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any questions you wanted to ask?
Well, we'll get to there, but I want to talk a little bit about, or I want to continue the theme on immigration. And I was one of the people that supported Donald Trump.
Wow.
You know, I didn't vote
You
for
know, that's
him.
a big...
Yes, I didn't vote for him, but I encouraged a lot of people to vote for him. And I get a lot of questions even at work, you know, why are you
is the big
supporting?
question?
And
Why are you supporting Donald Trump?
I supported Donald Trump not because I like Mr. Trump personally. Obviously, I don't know him. I think he's got a very abrasive manner about him, which obviously served him well in business.
That's right.
It allowed him to build
He's a billionaire.
a huge company. But I think when you transition into politics and the public sphere, you need to kind of tone that down a little bit and have a different way of expressing yourself. The reason I supported him is I felt that the status quo needed to be changed, and I didn't think that another politician could do it.
As Miss Clinton.
Yeah, you know, he ran against 19 different people between Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
And everyone else that was in that lineup was just going to be another 8 years of Obama. It was going to be the same. And so I saw him with his abrasive manner. I saw him using that. That was the perfect tool, I thought, for him to go to Washington and shake the place up. And
a lot of people say it was refreshing to hear what he speaks.
True.
Right? And that's how you felt.
That's how I felt. And there's things about immigration in this country that you're not going to hear in the press, you're not going to hear in the mainstream.
That's right.
But it's the reality of what's going on. And I'm going to make some comments that don't necessarily represent the view maybe of you and the show, but I think it's real and I think it needs to be addressed.
As I mentioned, he's very passionate about his opinion
Yes.
right now. So
I think I don't see immigration reform happening real soon in this country.
why?
I think Donald Trump has done a good thing in that he's gotten people talking about it, and I think that's where a lot of the anger and animosity towards him comes from, because he's bringing light to an issue that that needs to be discussed. Immigration, or illegal immigration in this country, in my opinion, has become a business. People have figured out how to monetize the system, and as long as that continues, there won't be any motivation to change it.
Can I stop you right there? What that comment that he just made? What I want to hear your opinion on that.
Well, let me explain
Just about every activity, legal or
Yes.
illegal, people from all walks of life and the segments of society find ways to monetize it.
Exactly.
And take the drug situation, for example. People have found ways to monetize it. So there will be people who will always try to take advantage of an existing situation. And in the case of immigration, you're going to have, you know, a group of individuals who come here passionate for their share of the American dream and be taken advantage of. I see it in my line of work every day. People will call you, they'll tell you this happened to me. This person claimed they were a lawyer and it turns out they weren't a lawyer. And so you do see that. Somebody promised that I'll bring you to, they'll be brought to America. They can, you know, the roads and streets are paved with gold.
Gold.
And
That's
And
what
it's not.
we
so
all
you
believed
do
when we
have-
were in
that's
Belize.
part of the sort of monetization, taking advantage of individuals That exists in just
Well,
about every segment.
and that's where I'm headed with this. And there's really maybe 4 or 5 key groups that are players in the immigration system here in the U.S. You have, of course, the illegal immigrant. You have the politicians. Okay, you have the activists. You have the employers.
That's right.
Okay, and least and maybe not the least important, but you have the people that are involved with trafficking of illegal immigrants. Okay, so you have these 5 key groups, and I think the only one that really wants immigration reform are the immigrants, and I'll explain why. It's obvious how the traffickers make their money. Okay, they charge people ridiculous sums of money to bring them in.
That's
For
right.
example, if you're in
Thousands and thousands
if you're
of
in
dollars.
TJ right now and you want to cross the border, it'll probably cost you $6,000.
That's right. Thousands.
If you're in China and you want to come here, it'll cost you $50,000.
That's right.
Okay, so it's obvious how they make their money. Now, where does that money go? A lot of that money goes to fund these immigration rallies, and that's how the activists make their money. Okay, that's some of that same money is channeled to these groups that encourage people to go downtown LA, for example, on May Day and march.
A big riot
Now,
or commotion.
those marches, in my mind, don't really accomplish what they are meant to accomplish,
Why do you
because
think that?
politicians know that a lot of people in those marches are illegal and they don't vote. And there's only 2 things that motivate politicians: votes and money.
Voters and money,
Okay?
yeah.
So you go down, these people go downtown and they fight for their rights. And what the activists don't tell them is, this is not going to benefit you. It might actually work against you, because the mainstream American folks that you need to support you in changing the laws, you end up alienating them. When you're downtown, fighting for your rights and waving the Mexican flag or the Belizean flag, and you're alienating the mainstream American folks that's looking on TV and wondering, where's the American flag?
Wow.
You want to become
You're in
you want to
America,
become an
yeah.
American. You're in America fighting for your rights. You're waving the Mexican flag. Why aren't you
A
know?
lot
So
of us would say, you know what, you're bonded, you're proud of
true,
what you're bond.
but no. But then if that's the case, the logic would be, if you're so proud of being bonded, then stay there.
Yeah, that's
But
true
if
too.
you come here and you're fighting to better your situation and become a part of this community, you can't be downtown waving your country's flag. I'm not saying you ignore your country,
Okay.
but you have to, if you want to gain the support of the people that vote, you have to show them that you can assimilate into their community. Okay?
You
Yeah.
really hit the nail on the head when you made that point, because when you listen to the criticism that is usually leveled against these rallies, I mean, I happen to have my office where I see it every time, because the road gets blocked down Wilshire Boulevard, people go back and forth, and you can't do very much, and it tends to be quite disruptive. But the subtext is that there has been such a poor job of assimilation into the society, into the American society. You know, America is a great melting pot. Nobody says discount where you came from. But what makes it a melting pot is the fact that everybody has something to contribute. Look at this country 20 years ago. You couldn't find, Mexican food everywhere. But today
It is.
It's the norm. It's the norm in certain areas.
That's right.
Yes.
In just about every ethnic cuisine has
You can
exploded
find.
across the country,
Which is
and which is part of what immigrants bring to this. And in return, immigrants are expected to assimilate.
Exactly.
And that lack of assimilation has sometimes been characterized by certain individuals as certain disloyalty to the United States. So when they see country flags being waved in these demonstrations, that also sort of creates some source of irritation.
Yeah.
But there's a point that you made about how the rallies get funded, and I'm not sure if I heard you right, but I don't suppose that you were suggesting that they the traffickers fund these rallies.
Well, funds from the traffickers and funds from people with other interests fund these activists. Okay? Many of these activists would be out of business tomorrow if Donald Trump were to wake up and said, I'm going to give amnesty. Okay? It goes against their interests to have the law fixed. It's like, for example, look at race relations in America. Look at the black community. Okay? You have guys like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson who live quite well because of the problems with, racial problems in the country.
Going on.
Okay, and that's one of the reasons why they weren't openly embracing President Obama in the beginning, because they thought he was going to come in and fix this problem.
Okay.
And that would mean that their income would disappear. Okay? So the more problems you have in society like this, I think there are people that have figured out how to make a living off it. Now let's move to the fourth group that I mentioned, the politicians here in the United States. And if you notice, there's a lot of politicians running around openly embracing sanctuary cities and all that. And again, you have to stop and ask yourself why. Like I said, there's only two things that motivate politicians. Money and votes. Illegal aliens don't vote.
So they don't really care what illegal aliens
But
got to say.
the activists and certain special interest group, including employers, fund a lot of these campaigns. And so the more you appear to openly embrace the immigrant population, you get funding from certain groups in the country. So the logic would be that if you're getting the money, you're not going to be pushing for immigration reform and to get everyone, fixed to get their papers.
Because a lot of these employers are actually hiring or employing undocumented
Well, I'll tell you how,
immigrants.
and I'll tell you why they do it. Let's say, for example, you have a company that hires 100 employees. Okay, it's a small manufacturing or a distribution business. They can go out and they can hire legal people in the community, let's say, and pay them $12 an hour. Okay, and let's say they use an employment agency. And I know it's hard to do math on the radio, but just bear with me for a sec, okay? So let's say you hire a legal person and the agency is going to charge you 40% fee on top of the wages, okay? So it's going to cost that employer $16.80, $17 to have this employee on their payroll, okay? That same employer goes to the agency and he says, you know what, I don't really care that much about documents. Just bring me the people.
Somebody.
And I want it cheap. So he gets an illegal immigrant at $10 an hour. But the agency says, you know what, for this service, I'm going to charge you
20.
No, 55% instead of 40.
Okay.
Okay? So if you do the math, the employer is paying 55% on $10. So now he's paying $15.50 as opposed to $17.
Yeah.
Okay? So he just saved $1.50 on each employee.
Correct.
The agency would have made $4.80, let's say, on the legal guy. He's now making $5.50 on the illegal guy. Now you spread that over 100 or over 1,000 employees on an annualized basis, and the employer and the agency are pocketing hundreds of thousands of dollars that they wouldn't normally have been able to pocket. So like I said, everyone has figured out how to make this system work, and it's in no one's best interest to fix it. And that was one of the reasons why I supported Donald Trump, because I felt he would be so abrasive and so way out there that people would actually say, you know what, let's fix the system.
All right. Wow. That's a lot of information that I didn't expect. But you're well educated on this matter.
Well, I have worked here undocumented. and I have seen a lot of undocumented people get taken advantage of, and it took me a while to kind of figure out what the motivations of the different groups were to maintain this.
And actually you are one of the, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but
ahead.
you're one of the person that I really look up to because you've been on both sides.
I've been on both sides.
Of the
And as a result, I even have a couple of ideas that would fix the problem, let's say, and make everyone happy. So if you want to take a break,
Aubrey. Let's vote for Aubrey.
no, don't vote for me. Let's take a break, and when we come back, if you want to, I have a question for the attorney when we come back.
Wow. So let's take a break, and we will be right back.
Money is the root of all evil.
Well, yeah, because I want to talk.
Tell me how much
I have a
money you have, and
suggestion.
I'll tell you how much evil
I have
you've
an
done.
idea.
Tell me how much money you want, and I'll tell you how much evil you got to do.
Sorry.
2 people was found dead in Belize City this week.
Welcome to the United States, gentlemen.
I have an idea how we can fix this problem, and I think you as the attorney can live.
Gangs on every single block around here,
Well, if
starting from
Aubrey,
single
if you
digits
run,
all
I'm
the way to
voting for
200.
you.
Where you from, homie?
They banged on you.
I would never get involved in
Got one of these.
You're good. I love it. I love it.
I would never get involved.
Good job.
You ready for live the gangster life then? I don't give up no more.
What out here? How come I haven't seen you?
You and I can switch.
Yo, Jules, it's not bad.
So I'll talk about myself.
It's a stick. And out here, the man with the force
That would be perfect for him to take back over.
You the cheat bomb. You got somebody else.
What if I do, huh? What if I do?
Find out, I kill her.
No,
You could put the mic
I
like
did not include
here.
lawyers. Lawyers are providing a service. I'm
Please, I'm running away.
We went to this tax company last year thinking we'd get a big refund.
I mean, we've got kids, daycare expenses. I mean, we should have got a lot back.
But that tax company didn't itemize our mortgage, and they missed the child credit.
They messed us up.
If you're audited by the Internal Revenue Service,
But we haven't
get
told them
smart.
yet.
If they call you, put them on hold.
If you
call
have
put
back
them on hold.
taxes to file, get smart. When you get your W-2 forms, like I said,
I really want to
get
see it up there. though.
smart.
No, I don't.
Well, not that you're gonna
Be
lose
careful.
people, you're gonna start.
So we have been trying to tell you, see, put the heat one here. You put the heat one right here. Share it.
Welcome to the Granny Show. That's me, Granny. Like Alvin Barrow. You know, answer. I said, hello, it's me.
They might call.
Oh, you're a
Yeah,
big
but I
man now?
hadn't
You're
said
a big
I
man
think they
now?
might be waiting for me to say you
Just
can start
last
calling
week when
in.
you did the pee-pee, I beg. You know, choose a side
My
there.
little
Oh,
speech
you
on
that
how
side,
to
move side.
Take with
Take
you.
with
No,
you.
you don't like
Yeah, but
that.
I'm gonna plug you in this.
Then I'm why me not got no friends. And then Junior one he want come wrong yeah, and they like the
I believe I was coming in. I was gonna come in sweats, and then I said, "What if they're recording this?"
Yeah,
Because
I
you
thought-
said radio,
Yeah.
and nobody sees
Oh,
you
no,
on
not
radio.
radio. I didn't say radio. I didn't.
Billy told me radio.
No,
I
it
thought you
wasn't
said
radio.
radio.
TV. Yeah,
Why
I
don't
said
we just go on the program live and do the fiddling of the stuff later.
Later, yeah.
Let's get back on it.
Segments are getting longer.
Let me give my solution.
Yeah, let's
And
hear
then we
this.
can get to some of your questions, which will preempt.
Okay, Darren, can you move your chair forward a little bit more?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, we're good. We're good. And we are gonna go. Oh, we are live. Okay. That's terrible. Let's go live.
Okay, we're live, and I'm welcoming back Marilyn with us. And Abri, also, you wanted to finish to ask a question to.
Well, yeah, I talked about why I felt that it would be difficult to get immigration reform in this country, mainly because it's going to upset the apple cart, so to speak, and really it's not in anyone's best interest to change the system and to make it easier for people to get fixed. Now, I know that any politician that comes out right now and says amnesty in this country is going to get kicked out of office, because I don't think the mainstream American people are ready for another amnesty. But with the attorney here today, I had an idea that I think even a Republican could get behind in terms of how to address this problem. One of the things that people don't realize is that of the millions of undocumented people that are in this country, many of them have someone that's legal that could petition for them. What I have found out from friends and family that are undocumented is one of the main reasons they don't do it, and I know people right today that have cases filed but on hold, is that there is a fear that if they leave the country, they don't know when they're going to be able to return. And let me continue a little bit, and then I'll give a chance. Okay, so now I know people that have spouses or kids that can file for them, but under the current immigration system, if I understand it correctly, if you came here legally, if you entered the country legally, on a visa, for example, you can adjust your status in the country.
Right.
If you entered the country illegally, you have to leave the country to adjust your status, unless you're covered under the Life Act, I believe.
Yeah, the 245.
The 245.
Right.
So there's a lot of people I know that have people that can file for them, and they're afraid because they don't know if they leave the country to pick up their documents. Is it going to take a week, 2 weeks, a year, 2 years? And unfortunately, in the immigrant community, there's too many rumors of people that have gone home and been stuck there for a year.
Right. Or longer.
And if it's a two-income family, you can afford to have half the income stuck outside the country.
Right.
So, the one way I think that this problem.
But there is provision for dealing with that. And there used to be a system which still exists, depending on when the petition
was filed. Yes.
All right, so let's go back to the initial premise that you laid out, which is that if you came in on a visa, you can adjust your status here. If you didn't come in on a visa, you have to go out. And then the middle ground is you didn't come in on a visa, but you had a petition that was filed for prior to or on April 30th, 2001.
Yes.
Those are the so-called 245I group. You can adjust your status here, pay the penalty, and
which is what I did.
Right. Now, then you have those subsequent to the 2001 who just crossed the border, came in. They have relatives in the system. So if the relative would file a petition for them, then they stick around. When the priority date becomes current, they're invited to go outside to process to do consular processing. Now, people would typically go, but then they, like you rightly pointed out, there was no certainty as to how long it would take them to come back. So under the Obama administration, they came up with this program where you file the I-601A, which was essentially for immediate relatives. When they talk about immediate relative, you're talking husband, wife, children, parent, that sort of thing. And they all had to be, of course, under 21 to qualify as a child under the Immigration and Nationality Act. It allows for the adjudication of the waiver. Okay, now the waiver we're talking about here, we're talking about what they call a 601 waiver, which is the waiver for being present illegally. That sort of physical presence illegally. But there are other waivers which that 601A doesn't cover. For example, if the individual had committed a crime, then you have a whole different issue. All right. So there are people who are using the 601A. Yes, the 601A is not quite as broad as people would have really wanted it. And it got tied up as part of the Fifth Circuit stay that was granted. And so, yes, that is one of the biggest sources of fear. I mean, I've had clients who, under the 601, this was before Obama's program came, you know, there were classic candidates, you knew they would. They processed everything, got down to the last minute, and they had an autistic child. They decided, you know what, this is too big a risk, like you said, for me to take. So they wouldn't go. And so they sit around here and wait, hoping that some form of amnesty would come along. But amnesty has become a bad word.
Yes,
that's right.
You know, it's just become such a bad word that...
well, no country right now want to give amnesty.
No, nobody does.
Well, I think, and again, if you go back to my earlier argument about how people make a living off this, I think that's why the activists and all the people involved are pushing for a full amnesty, because they know it's never going to happen. I think one way that this thing could be resolved where everybody could live with it, obviously the Republicans and many in that right-wing segment of the population don't want an amnesty. They're not going to go for an amnesty. Okay?
Americans don't want amnesty.
But they want to help. And that's why I think if, for example, the same Life Act that's already on the books, if Congress were to extend that and say, bring it up, if you were here if you were here more than 3 years or 5 years, whatever the number is that everybody can stomach, okay? If they say, if you were here more than 3 years, we will process you under the Life Act. Doesn't matter when your petition was filed, for example, and increase the fine. And there's another myth in this too. Increase the fine, okay? To 2,000 or to 3,000 or whatever, increase the fine. I think you would see millions of people come out of the woodwork and process their documents.
That's if they can find that money.
Well, that's why I said that's the myth, okay? Because the first thing you will hear is we can't afford or you will hear that the people can't afford the $3,000. But if that same person has a relative that decides to come to TJ tomorrow and cross the border, they will find the $6,000 to pay the coyote. Yeah. So the money is there. The money is there, and that's a myth that people spread that, oh, you're going to hurt them. When they put their filing in, they won't get their documents tomorrow. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, it may take 3 years. If you live in the United States and you can't raise $3,000 over 3 years to pay your fine when your documents become due, then maybe you should go back home.
Yeah, but don't you have to pay before you even file?
Well, those are logistical issues that the government can work around.
Presently, there's an appetite for even extending, you know, the 245I program.
Yeah, but I don't think you would get as much blowback. I think right now the biggest challenge is citizenship.
Characterized as a form of amnesty.
No, but I understand.
It was characterized as a form of amnesty, and because of the characterization, and because people have bought into the idea that it's just simply masquerading as amnesty but in another name, there is no political will for that.
No, but I think it's an easier sell. An amnesty would grant anyone, right? Basically,
From any
without
country.
without
So
a
you're
felony,
You're
right?
basically drawing a qualitative
Exactly.
distinction.
Yes, but this law would only apply to people that could legally file anyway. You would have to have a petitioner.
So then what
Which-
would be your plan for the people that cannot accept this stuff? Because then you still have a whole lot that have
I would
criminal
hazard
history?
no. I would hazard a guess that almost everyone in this country, almost everyone in this country, undocumented, has some relative that would be able to file for them. Many do. Many do.
Maybe the statement should be that many people do have that, but there are also segments of the society where everybody in the family is here, but they're all illegal.
True.
That's true.
And
That's
you
true.
can't use
That is
second
true.
degree relatives
To
for
do that.
purposes of,
That's right.
of filing. So it would not be a complete cure, but
But it
at
would
least
fix a
would
huge
fix
chunk of the problem.
A huge chunk
Of the problem.
of the
I
problem.
personally feel there's no fix to this situation. For one, there is too many people here illegal. It's going to cost the government a whole lot of money to even try and get these people together. When you put them in detention centers, medical, food, all that stuff is very expensive. So the government is already spending a lot of money.
Yes,
holding
but you're right.
on to
But
these
the
people.
point is not to detain anybody. I think if I
Yeah.
understand
Yeah, what
Aubrey's
he's
point,
not talking
it's
about.
like
The point is,
Open up.
is to allow them to file.
use an existing framework which
Right.
has been used before,
And
it's been
increase it,
tested,
yes.
it's worked. So it becomes a sort of a self-funding mechanism which does not involve any government subventions of any kind.
Yeah.
When you start detaining them,
That's
then
when you will
it
have
costs
costs.
all of us some money.
Yes,
And
all
there-
taxpayers.
There's
and
two
everybody.
things that the Republicans always fight against. They fight against the citizenship, the easy path to citizenship, and they'll fight against the cost. They are all about saving money. And so by doing it through the Life Act, an extension of the Life Act, you're not automatically giving people citizenship. And by raising the fines, it becomes self-funding.
Yeah, but
Now,
there's no,
now another myth.
I think there's a misperception usually put out there.
Yes.
Because when there's talk about this easy path to citizenship,
It's not.
a lot of the time, there's no thing as an easy path
Of
to
course not.
citizenship. You know, you have to become a permanent resident
Before you become
before
a citizen.
you become
Exactly.
a citizen.
But
But the perception
Yes.
sometimes, because I get phone calls and
Right.
say, hey, how do I get my citizenship?
Right away.
Right away. And then you have to sort of break it down and explain to people
There's
that
steps you have to make.
the only people who get that automatic right are those who, one, you're born here.
Right.
Two, you can trace back through the family line using some complicated chats to determine whether you're entitled to derivative citizenship.
Don't they say if your
And
parents are working outside the United States and you were born at a different country, you could
Well,
automatically
it
become
depends.
citizen?
If your parents were working outside and are working for the U.S. government.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
That's a
there are
difference.
all those qualifications.
Okay.
Then you don't quite have a problem. Then you've got to deal with the issue immediately on, what the problem at hand is. This is about people who came in here in search of refuge and they have not been able to regularize their stay.
I want to ask a question that I know a whole lot of people that are listening in and tuning in would like to hear. We have a lot of people here that is working, they're here illegally, and most of them maybe came here as a child or maybe a young adult. What does these people do? Most of them might not have a home to go back to whichever country they came from. So if we're having this big immigration problem right now, we're detaining people and they're sending people back to their country or whatever, what should these people do?
Well, you're alluding to the deferred action for early
DACA,
childhood
right?
DACA.
arrivals, and it basically says if they came here on or before June
Right.
of 2007, before they turn 16, then they're entitled to apply for deferred action status. So they get an employment authorization card, they get a social security number, and that's as far as.
But it's still not a permanent resident card. They cannot become
my
permanent
next question
resident.
is, wasn't that a part of what Obama did?
Yes.
Okay, no. As far as I understand, wasn't Donald Trump reverting all that stuff there right now?
Donald Trump hasn't touched that.
No, he didn't touch that one yet.
He has not touched that. No.
Again, there's a lot of rumors.
The present administration. This is why I said, that at the beginning, that we need to be careful because the rumor mill. There's
a lot of rumors
out there. There are a lot of rumors out there. There has been talk about what to do with it.
Right.
But then they have not come up with a definitive statement as to what they're going to do. So for now, until maybe there is an executive order that says deferred action status gone, they still are in deferred action status.
Okay, for a person that had gotten this social security number and this temporary card or whatever it is.
Employment authorization.
Okay, that's all it is.
That's all.
Okay, so then can that person leave the country?
No.
You can, but it's not advisable. Okay? Because what you need to understand is that
the keywords are deferred action.
Yeah,
you can still be deported. All you've been
has been deferred.
The only thing that happened is you've moved lower on the priority list.
Lower down on the
But you're still on that list and you can still be deported.
Remember, you do not have permanent resident here.
When you
so you're not
come
legally in a sense.
Okay, from 0 all the way up to when you turn, I believe, 18.
Right.
They don't count your period of unlawful presence against you.
Okay.
Okay, so most of these people are outside of that category of 18 years. So the cap was 31 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have somebody who's 21. They decide, let me go to TJ for a party, or grandma's sick. They go out there and visit, and they're coming back. For them to do that, they need to get advance parole.
Okay.
Which is a special permission to allow them to go out.
And come back.
But that doesn't mean that
they will let you back in.
They cannot run into trouble.
Exactly.
Okay? So the standard operating procedure often is that, look, you advise your clients unless it is really, really critical. Don't just be sort of going back and forth.
Don't just go home for Christmas.
People do go. People do go, but most immigration attorneys would counsel their clients very, very carefully about the consequences before they embark on assisting them to get their advance parole.
Well, I have a question to the sense that people are saying it's not only the Muslim countries that can't come in. People, of course, are saying, what if you have just your green card, you're coming from Belize?
Based on the executive order,
nothing has
originally, it excluded those. Then they excluded. Then they also, green card holders were also caught up in it. But then
only from those countries.
Yeah, from those countries.
Okay,
but then
now
they
you
sort
hear
of
it directly here.
redefined the classifications. So green card holders, they've gone through a vetting system.
Right.
So they're not counted as part of those that are going to be blocked out. And that's part of the reason why there was talk about the administration trying to come up with a new executive order clearly delineating who is and who is not caught up. But people are mixing up a whole lot of things. Because initially it was like a whole bunch of things.
It was chaos. Yeah. It was really chaotic.
And then they clarified, the White House Council clarified it. But, the bad news goes much further.
I think you already answered this question, the difference between deferred action and DACA. People wanted to know, like, the processing with the new Trump administration, how does it affect
They've done nothing to affect DACA. So if there's anybody out there, you're eligible for DACA, apply for it before
There you go.
They change it.
it gets changed or wiped out.
Yes.
And
So
I want to touch on the raids because you mentioned earlier, and I know, in the immigrant communities right now, there's a lot of noise being made by, oh, I'm afraid to go to the market because they might pull me over, blah, blah,
that's
blah.
what we've been hearing.
My understanding is, under those raids that took place a week or two ago, I think only less than 700 people were detained.
Oh, just this week?
And these people were not detained at random roadblocks at a red light or something.
No.
These were people that had already gone through the due process and had deportation orders against them. They had already met with a judge. The judge had already said, you have to leave. They did not leave, and the previous administration did not pursue it. But it's not like immigration woke up one morning and said,
let's go
to
here
Linwood and clean it up.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a lot of
Is that a
the
correct
rumors
statement?
that's going around. I think only 2 people were caught up that maybe didn't have full criminal records.
Right.
And that's why the press keeps parading this lady from Arizona.
That's
Arizona
right.
and
I
the
was
gentleman
going to ask
from
you
Seattle.
about that.
But
Okay.
in the case of the gentleman from Seattle, we have to, be careful because he was a DACA.
He's a DACA.
But
Okay.
Doesn't mean he can't be deported, but
yeah.
he did have a work
The
permit.
thing about DACA people need to be careful with is this. The government has considerable latitude when it comes to anything under national security or the security of this country. So if a person who is DACA, who has DACA, say claims to have gang affiliations, for example, the gangs are typically affiliated with criminal enterprises.
Right.
So that person would suddenly lose their DACA.
Of course.
Okay. the
Well,
DACA
even if
would
you have
be
a green
revoked.
card, you could lose your green
If
card
you,
on
so
the
Exactly.
that's a good point.
It
That
doesn't
if
guarantee
you have
you
a
any-
green card,
Yeah, exactly.
and you engage in activities that threaten the security of this country,
Or committed a crime, right?
or the activity is it's just a nice way of saying you commit a crime or
A serious
because
felony.
it's sort of a
A
serious
Class A
felony.
Yes.
You're going to be hauled in front of a judge, and there's a range of relief. You may qualify or may not qualify for certain types of relief, depending on the type of crimes that you've committed. And the judge then will hear your case. You get a chance to present your case. And once, the judge decides that, okay, fine, you've made your case, you get to stay. If you don't make your case, you're ordered removed, and then you have levels of appeals ahead of you. So you go to the BIA, the Board of Immigration Appeals, and then if you don't like what they tell you because they side with the judge, then you have another order. You go to the Ninth Circuit if you're, in this area. And then, of course, if you lose at the Ninth Circuit, you can apply to the U.S. Supreme Court, but the U.S. Supreme Court decides which cases it's going to hear, which cases it's not. So there's no automatic sort of right to go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But the Ninth Circuit, yeah, it's wide open.
I have a question. I know a lot of people that have a driver's license. They're not legal in this country.
Okay.
If they go and renew their driver's license, I'm sure that they're using a whole lot of tactics these days as to find out who's here legal and who is not. Can they deny you, or is there anything out there that's saying you cannot renew your driver's license?
Which state are you talking about?
That's what I was going to
Yeah,
ask.
because
you see,
every state has
most
a different...
states,
I know.
a lot of states have sort of created a two-tier driver's license.
I'm going to tell you right now, in the state of California, they do not ask for documentation.
Well, because
they ask for your social security number.
Congress
But that's not a
law,
documentation.
They passed a law in Sacramento, which was signed, which took effect, which allows people who are undocumented to have driver's licenses, because part of the problem was that you had people driving without driver's licenses.
Right.
That's
Accidents happened.
And then you couldn't find out
You couldn't find them and all that. So they have a different kind of driver's license as opposed to all others. Those driver's licenses are only good for driving within the state of California. You cannot go outside of California with it because their next state will not recognize it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
That's something good to
so
know.
you then have another kind of driver's license for all those who are legal. Now, those driver's licenses, you can travel with them through the airports.
Right.
You can rent cars when you travel
Right.
to other states because they meet certain security
Clearance.
requirements,
Okay.
which the other type of driver's license does not. But it becomes a question for the state of California, okay, what do we do about these people who are driving without driver's licenses? We can license them, and then we can reduce the accidents on the road. And if you license somebody,
And
of
have
course,
the
the next step
insurance.
is that they're going to get insurance.
Exactly.
Because New York have a similar program. We even did IDs, and the mayor of New York told Mr. Trump, the president, specifically and straight up, we are not giving you any information about who is here legally or illegal. We also have a program where you don't have to be legal to get certain type of health insurance. And this is before Obamacare came into play.
Yeah, I mean, states have
Obamacare.
Each state have their
certain
own.
powers, and the states basically decide on certain things. Driver's licenses, their healthcare internally. That's why you have covered California and all those kinds of programs for healthcare, medical and all that. So there are certain things that fall within the authority and purview of the state. The state can do. Now, it doesn't mean that the federal government cannot reach out and say, hey, look, if you don't do this, remember that freeway that runs right through? There's some freeway
funds.
dollars. You know,
Will be
so
cut.
it becomes the question of the power of the
Right.
purse. All right. So all those issues relating to sanctuary cities are likely to come to a head. We don't know because the administration hasn't said what it is going to definitively do, but of course there have been suggestions in the media to the effect that, well, you know, maybe we'll defund certain things.
And
You
I
know,
think what the
but-
administration is asking for is there's a lot of hype and emotion when it comes to immigration, but if you really pay attention to what they've been asking for, even under Obama, they're asking to be told when a felon is being released.
Yes.
So
it's
that
not like
they
you
can-
got a traffic ticket
Yeah.
and the police is going to take you down
Right.
to detention.
And the idea
They're
is
asking for a guy that's
he
robbed
committed-
or
he
killed or
did that.
molested a child.
But there is a system in place. It's just that it's not nationwide.
Yeah.
There have been carve-outs. It used to be the standard practice that somebody commits a crime, Homeland Security, well, before then, they
Before
would just
that,
release the person,
Right.
the person goes. Then we move from that, okay, we can cross-train the police to
Right.
help us. So if you take the money, you've got to, of course,
Give up the info.
give up the info. And you give up the info by just simply interviewing these people. Where are they from? What's their status? And so when it's time for a release, you have an ICE officer that comes in,
come
and
to
a
the jail.
detainer
Yes.
is lodged.
Right.
And then they come back and they pick you up and then they take you to the individual to
And
an ICE facility.
it was also my understanding that at the time the police weren't required to verify the statement of the inmate. If the inmate said, "I'm a citizen," it ended there.
Yeah,
So it was
did,
a
but
self-declare.
It's changed, but
Oh,
now if you say you are a citizen
You gotta
and
prove.
you're not,
That, well, of course.
there are
later on.
very, very, very serious
Oh, yes.
consequences.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Because a
Exactly.
false
Claiming
claim to U.S.
citizenship.
citizenship
Yeah.
as a lifetime bar. You can never
take it back.
get a green card.
Right.
Yes.
Correct. Correct. Well, I had a question. One of my viewers had asked me if would it be able to fix the spouse's papers if they have a misdemeanor domestic violence from a problem that they had before under the new.
Okay. domestic violence is a serious conviction. Again, it depends on how it is dealt with. If you look at the sections of the penal code, an incident as a simple battery. An incident could be charged otherwise, other than a simple battery. If it's a simple battery, you get a different section. It has less of a consequence. So this is where, if the person has that problem, this would require specifics. What section of the code did they get charged under? What happened? And the lawyers can work together. Get a good immigration lawyer, talk to their criminal defense attorney. Working together, they can tell you this has a stink, this one is a kiss of death, this is a better plea. So you can sometimes, working with a DA, come up with
a solution.
A solution which does not require the person to carry the tag of domestic violence per se, because if it is, then it's problematic, it's deportable.
Another question that I have from one of my viewers was that she had overstayed her visa for 6 months, and now she's engaged to a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
Okay, so what can they do? Is there a problem because she overstayed that 6 months? Or what can she
if
apply
she
for?
leaves, she'll have a problem.
Okay,
But
once
if she's here and she's engaged, she might as well just simply marry her sweetheart and live happily there.
Do the filing.
And in the process, she should not be tempted to say, okay, I need to, while the application is pending, I want to go and visit.
No.
Because that will then trip up her period of unlawful presence.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
When we're going to commercial at this time, please join us back and please give us a call. Wow, this is amazing.
DACA alone.
Money is the root of all evil. Tell me how much money you have and I'll tell you how much evil you've done. Tell me how much money you want and I'll tell you how much evil you gotta do.
2 people was found dead in Belize City this morning.
Welcome to the United States, gentlemen.
What a boy name?
Juice, man.
Juice.
Juice?
Kyle?
Oh my God!
There's gangs on every single block around here, starting from single digits all the way to 200.
Where you from, homie?
They banged on you.
Well, I jumped in and jumped the man.
Once you got one of these, you ain't gotta worry about nothing.
Youngster, him dead. You know what I'm saying? Right from your blood clot face. My enemies in the city.
You can't make a mistake. Yo, drop a gun down.
You ready to live the gangster life then? I don't give up no more.
What have you been doing out here? How come I haven't seen you?
Trying to get rich.
Why did I even do you that?
Yo, Juice. It's not bad in the mind. It's a steal. And out here, the man with the most gun win.
You cheat on me. You got somebody else.
What if I do, huh? What if I do?
I'll find out and I kill her.
Yo, get the boy Juice.
Yeah, don't have blood.
You got money, you got power. It's the American way.
Please, I'm running late.
We went to this tax company last year thinking we'd get a big refund.
I mean, we've got kids, daycare expenses. I mean, we should have got a lot back.
But that tax company didn't itemize our mortgage and they missed the child credit.
They messed us up.
If you're audited by the Internal Revenue Service, get smart. If you have back taxes to file, get smart. When you get your W-2 forms, like I said, get smart.
welcome back again, and this topic is so huge and so interesting that I think we're over an hour in it. Marilyn, you raised a question that, as I always say, always get information from the sources. Don't, you hear something and you run with it. That's not how it works. Marilyn, ask your question again.
Yeah, my question was about raids. I've heard and I've seen people posting stuff on Facebook, and I had to address someone on Facebook just a couple days ago about information that they had on Facebook and there was no proof. My question is, you hear about raids in different areas and in California at the park and different areas. Is there any truth to any of this?
Well, there have been raids, but to the best of my knowledge, the raids have been targeted mostly at people with serious crimes.
Okay, and it was also people that...
And they usually have gone through the system.
Okay.
But I'm not aware of a situation where there's a roadblock.
Well, most of the raids that I've seen over the years, I remember back in the 80s and 90s when immigration was raiding companies and stuff. And yeah, it's true, they would go to a company, they would surround the block, and they would grab everybody and go through their documents and they would take them. But a lot of those raids were as a result of policies by the company. Maybe you had a company that was abusing its employees and not paying overtime.
And somebody reported.
And so someone reported them to Labor Board, and Labor Board tried to address it. It didn't work. So at that point, the Labor Board would elevate it to the immigration. And that was a way of penalizing the company. Unfortunately, it penalized the workers, but that's how immigration got their information as to who to target. But in terms of just random roadblocks, it happens in some areas, like in Riverside, for example. You know, they have random checkpoints and stops near the border. Yes, it's immigration. You have immigration officers that drive around.
San Clemente, you know, you're going to find some.
But those are known trouble spots. Those are areas where typically the traffickers will drop people when they bring them. Yeah. So they target them. But to say you're going to be driving down the street in Linwood and there'll be a checkpoint at the corner of Imperial or something, I haven't seen that happen.
Or I haven't seen what you said. What you mentioned was that we have this celebration. Let's say the Belize celebration in Hollywood. You know, thousands of people show up. I have been going there for many years. I could say maybe 10 years, and I have not seen a raid. And I'm there almost every single year. So that's not true as far as I'm concerned. And as you know.
Well, you know, I just simply rehash what I said earlier on. There are people who like to be very good storytellers. And so they authoritatively state things that sometimes are not true.
Right. And people run with it.
People run with it.
That's
so,
right.
And often between one story and the next story, the originator of the story doesn't even recognize it when the second person says it. So that's where we've got to be careful. There's a lot of fear out there, but that also means that we have to be a little more discerning in terms of what is going on.
Right. Yeah. And that is nice that we cleared that up, so people don't have to really live in that fear that you can't go here or you can't go there and you can't go to work.
No, they shouldn't. I think my advice is, look, go if you are in illegal status, make some time in these times, talk to an immigration lawyer, let them review your situation. There's some things that you can do. There's some things that you can do, and do that so that you don't find yourself reacting, because you've already taken care of the problem. When it happens, you understand what the process is going to be and what your rights to do and what your rights are.
And usually, folks, if you do have any questions, usually if you go to the DHS.gov/news, they always have updates on everything that is going on regarding immigration. So if you ever have a question, if you ever have something that is on your mind or weighing, go to that website. Again, that website is www.dhs.gov/news. There's where the facts are, not hearsay. So also, we have several other questions here. Can sponsoring illegal son hurt the process of parents' citizenship application?
No.
You cannot?
No.
Okay. So there you go. Also, there was I am a permanent resident applying for citizenship. Will being divorced from an illegal alien affect citizenship application?
No.
It will not affect.
I don't see how that.
Exactly. How?
You know.
No, but these are some of the
These are
rumors that
questions
get
because
spread
they
in the
don't know.
community.
No,
So it's good
and
that
that's
they're
why
asking.
that you're asking is perfect for you to to get it directly from an attorney, and you're not assuming what is going on. This is your opportunity.
And I would recommend that people go to an attorney, such as Mr. Derek here. Go to a licensed attorney. I know too many storefront attorneys out there that will take your money, no matter how dumb the question may be, and they could easily say, like you did, no. They will take your money while they investigate the question.
That's right.
And that's how they make a living. So the people have to be careful that not only do they go to an attorney, but that they go to an attorney that's a licensed attorney and knows what he's talking about.
And I can vouch.
Bad advice can hurt you.
Yes. And I can vouch for Mr. Akrofi, as I mentioned before. He has worked with the Belizean community ever since I've been working for the Belize Consulate since 2009. I met Mr. Akrofi. He has assisted many Belizeans in immigration situations. So if you do have questions, he has an office located in Wilshire, 3325 Wilshire Boulevard, Suite 1235. You can give him a call at 213-389-5660. He's been an immigration attorney for over 15 years. So this is not maybe or a play attorney. This is someone that's been with the Belizean community. As I mentioned earlier, he's more Belizean than his wife, who was born in Belize. So every occasion, every event that we've had, Mr. Akrofi has been present, and he will always take a minute to answer any questions that you may have. He's so humble and so sweet. So there you go. I will also give you his information again. When before the show is over, we'll give you his information again.
I have a
you
question.
had a question?
Is the Belize Consulate flooded with calls because of all this that's going on?
We certainly do get a lot of calls. Basically, most of them have been answered when the raid occurred, and also when when the visa and resident card situation came up. A lot of people was calling to find out, oh, are we going to be affected to go to Belize and we come back? So yeah, we do get people that are concerned, and so we will be. I want you guys to give Mr. Akrofi a call if you guys have any further questions. I'm sorry, we're out of time. And I want to take this moment to thank all my guests here. Thank you, Mr. Akrofi. Thank you for everything. I thank you.
Thank you.
Aubrey, and I thank you, Marilyn, for coming all the way from New York.
Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today. Until next Saturday, have a wonderful day. I should have said there's a continuance on this.
Money is the root of all evil. Tell me how much money you have and I'll tell you how much evil you've done. Tell me how much money you want and I'll tell you how much evil you gotta do.
2 people was found dead in Belize City this morning.
Welcome to the United States, gentlemen.
What a boy name?
Juice, man.
Juice.
Juice?
Kyle?
Oh my God.
There's gangs on every single block around here, starting from single digits all the way to 200.
Where you from, homie?
They banged on you.
But I jumped in and jumped the man.
She got one of these. You ain't gotta worry about nothing.
Youngster, him dead. So now I say, right for your blood clot face. My enemies necessary.
You tell me to put that gun down. Yo, drop my gun down.
You ready for live the gangster life? I don't give up no more.
What have you been doing out here? How come I haven't seen you?
Yo, choose. It's not badass in the mind. It's a state. And out here, the man with the most gun wins.
You cheat on me. You got somebody else.
What if I do, huh? What if I do?
Find out. Like,
Yo, get the boy juice.
don't have blood.
You got money?